Hello beautiful people, welcome back to Ready Resto. So again with the Zodiac, we attempt to fire this thing up once again. Now, I think, and I say this every episode, but this time I am pretty much sure that we are good on this occasion. So it turns out that the battery, let me just flip the camera and take a walk with me. So this is the old battery I had that I was testing the car with and the starter motors and so on with, which I thought was the issue. Turns out this fella didn't have enough cold cranking amps anymore to actually power the starter. So it charges, like it fires all the electrics and everything else, like it's giving it surface charge. So like the electrics and things like that will work, but it didn't have enough grunt to actually push the starter motor. And so I decided to get another battery. Now that also tells me that the old starter probably was working. It was this fella that was throwing us a weird red herring, to be honest. So when it comes to your projects, if you are struggling or if you are in doubt, I would suggest trying a different battery if you have access to it. Now, I did try to jump that one off the one in my actual car, in my Range Rover. I did try to jump that, and that's a good battery. But I think the jumper leads also, so those jumper leads over there, they did not have enough oomph as well, because I think these are only I think they're a 4 gauge, so I think they were just too light to do it. So when I had a 2 gauge jumper cable that I had in the Range, that then got the starter motor to actually go and turn over and run. So a little bit of a combination. If you guys are also, if you also have a Ford 302 and you got a V8 or any old classic V8, these fellas need a lot of power. So I suggest thicker cables instead of those if you're having an issue, and double check your battery because that might be the problem. So let's walk over here. That takes us to the new one. So I've got this new battery over here. It's been standing a few days, so I've just put it on the trickle charger. But I've given it multiple tests with this battery as well, and that starter motor turns over beautifully, runs everything else. I've hooked up the multimeter to it as well, and when it drops, it doesn't drop below 10, which is also a very good sign. Now that's something just to note as well. When you test it like with an old battery like that, if you start the motor and the first time it runs and the second time the voltage drops to like 2 or 1, that battery is pretty much cooked. So we are good now from that perspective. Now what I did was I bought myself some thick ground cable. So this is 2 gauge ground cable, the same thickness as the jumper leads that I used, and it worked perfectly fine. So I'm going to run a ground, because this car doesn't, obviously the battery has been relocated to the booth, so the battery actually goes in the back of there. That means that there's no grounding or proper grounding at engine bay level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this cable from the battery terminal all the way to the engine bay and try and hook it up directly to the block or the belt housing, which however far I can get, because this is a very long car. So we've got to get those. And then what I've bought is these little clips here, which are these sort of washers that go on and they've got groove teeth in them. And what these are really good for grounding, because they bite in around paint and so on and help the terminal make good connection. Make good connection with the metal as well. So recommend these when you do it. And then a little extra I've got here is another pipe, because obviously when we changed the water pump, I had to change the inlets on the other side now, so I need to just maneuver something. So this is kind of a slight reducer, just to kind of help me fit that in place. So combination, I think we're now in business. We've, electrical issues are always a pain, but I think we're at a point where we found out what it is. Okay, so let's get the starter motor in first, and then I can start running all of this, because all the connections and everything already exist for this guy. So I'm just going to put it back in again now that I know everything is good, and then ground, and we can try and turn the key and see what happens. So let's get into it. All right, everyone, so battery's in. We did think about running the negative through the car, but we didn't have enough length in this cable to do that. So instead, I thought, okay, let's just see if there's a good enough ground to get the power, the grounding from here to the front through the body of the car. So walk with me. What we've done is we've taken a length of that cable and we've grounded it to the frame from here to the block itself, so just in the front here. Now originally the battery would have set somewhere here in a Ford application, right? So from here the battery would have been grounded straight to the block in this application this way. So everything's wired now. We've got cables, the coils wired up, ballast resistors wired up, everything is in. We are at the point now to give this guy a crank and see. And obviously, of course, I've put the starter back in at the bottom there. We're going to give it a crank. Now, there isn't any oil in the car because obviously, if you remember the previous video, I fixed the sump, so I haven't put the oil back into the car. So we're not going to do anything and start it physically yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the key to just see if the starter motor will actually fire. All right, here goes nothing. Ooh, brilliant, we got it. That's a good sign. It's fired for longer than expected though. I don't know if the block, if it's a block, but it's fired for longer than I turned the key back and it's still fired. So it looks like it's good. You guys obviously probably heard my conversation there with my dad, but essentially, turn the key, starter motor is firing. This is a great sign. But obviously it fired for longer. I turned the key back off and it kept firing. I don't know, because the starter it has the power and it takes the draw. I don't know if that's a normal behavior of the actual starter motor. I'm not too sure. Or it could be the barrel, but that's a really good sign. But now I'm not going to do that again until we put some oil in this car, because obviously it needs some oil. It's going to have a little bit in there, but we're going to put that in. So oil's going to go in. We are then going to see what the oil pressure looks like, if it picks up any oil pressure, and then we're going to get it started. Now I have ordered a tool for priming the oil pump. It hasn't arrived yet. It should hopefully be here by tomorrow, but we're going to give it a crack and just see if we can get some oil pressure going. If we can't, I'm going to stop, leave it, and then we're going to prime it afterwards. But let me go get the oil, we'll put it in there, and we'll continue the video. Hey everyone, so can't tell you how excited I am to hear this thing actually turn. I mean, that is just such a good amount of progress that we've made so far. So we've cranked it a few times. It's cranking so strong, cranking really well, which is really good. So I think even though we didn't need to run the ground cable all the way to the battery, this one seems to be doing the job. I do have another braided one just there at the back, but I doubt that's adding any value to the cranking of this car. But we've cranked it a few times. The oil gauge hasn't really moved very much, so I don't know if it's gonna fire without it. It is a risk. I mean, it's not a brand new engine. Obviously, it had been run before, but because it's been sitting for so long, it may not have enough oil on the cams and so on. So I don't know. I think what we're gonna do next is just get some fuel in the car, check that the carburetor is filling up with fuel properly, see that we're getting fuel in there, and maybe just see if it'll start to try and fire. Because obviously if it doesn't do that, then something else may be wrong. Either one of the spark plugs is dead, or the cables, or something else. So we're just going to give it a small shot, but we're not going to run it very long, because obviously we don't know about the oil priming until the other tool comes tomorrow. Which we have to pull the distributor out again, and then you put the tool down and use a drill, and then you just run it, I think in reverse, if I'm not mistaken. I need to look that up and double check, and then it primes the system, and we should see oil pressure on the gauge on the inside. But also, I don't know if the gauge inside of the car actually works, so a lot of variables here. But what we're going to try and do is get that fuel into the carburetor, see if that works, see if that's all okay, and we're going to just try and give it a small fire, just out of curiosity, to see what happens. But yeah, wish us luck. We are almost there. I promised you guys we will get it running. I'm determined. We are nearly there. Alright everyone, so we're off to go get some more fuel from the petrol station, because it turns out that it doesn't seem to be getting any fuel up to the carburetor at the moment. So we've checked it, we've tried to sniff it, we can't see anything coming out the other end. We've even tilted the car up slightly to try and see if the pickup, I just think the pickup on this car in the tank is actually quite high compared to what you'd expect it to be. So we don't know if just maybe there's just not enough fuel to even get to the pickup level for the pump. So we're just gonna get some more fuel, see if that works, see if that gets us in a good place. But yeah, we'll keep going. Hey everyone, so back from the fuel station now. We've put some more fuel in the car, but still no luck, to be honest. We just don't seem to be getting fuel up front. What we did manage to do though was find out that the fuel gauge, the reason why the fuel gauge wasn't moving was that the cable actually to the float was actually frayed. I went to go and disconnect it just to test it to ground to see if it moves, and the whole thing just came apart. But then I touched it to ground and we got like a 3/4 of a tank. So the gauge seems to be working fine. I think maybe either the float's he's had enough, but also we're just not sure why fuel's not getting up front. But we're gonna call it a day for now. You know, get some food, do some thinking, just go back to the drawing board, and we will try again tomorrow. But I mean, look, fantastic progress. I can't tell you guys how excited I am to actually hear this thing turn over on its own power. You know, that is a massive feat from when I got this car and nothing was connected, nothing was working. So I mean, look, we can get fuel going, we can find out if there's any other issues in it, but this is the closest that I've been so far. So I am super excited. Watch this space. Hopefully tomorrow will be the day. Hey everyone, so day 2, trying to find out why we're not getting fuel to the front of the car. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look quickly at the float area and just check the tank out. So what we're looking at here is this little fella in there. That's the float that tells you the fuel level, and then that little ring just sits in there, so you can spin it. And I was able to spin it by hand, to be honest. Just spin it and then you can just pull it out. But what it was, this was actually kind of wobbling around a little bit in there, so I'm wondering if that seal is not sitting down correctly, and if that's not, like, then obviously creating the vacuum pressure inside of the tank, or pressurizing the tank at all for it. So we're gonna have a look. I'm gonna try and pull it out, have a look. I've cleaned the contact already, just a little bit of sandpaper on the contact itself to try and clean it out. As you can see, that's broken off right there like that. It sheared off, so we'll put some new spade connector end on it as well. But let's get the float out of there, have a look at the seal, and then I've got another seal from another it was a spare fuel sender unit that was in here, but that fuel sender unit will definitely not fit in this tank because the channel is way too long. So I'm going to just see if I can reuse the gasket perhaps and on this, and if it'll work. So let's have a look. Okay, so having a look at the sender unit, as you can see, it sort of sits like that inside of your tank, and then what it does is that then tells you the level of fuel, and it sends the fuel level to the front based on that little arm there. So looking at the gasket, that looks like it's seen better days, to be honest. Our fuel is quite corrosive, to be honest, so I think, you know, over time fuel will eat away at sort of rubber gaskets and so on. So it looks like this one's seen better days. I don't know if this is a contributing factor to it or not. But if I take you over to the tank itself, sorry, I was using the oil cooler to hold the carpet down and spilt oil all over here. So if I look at the tank, you can actually see, sorry, let me just try the flash for you guys, see if that flash gives you anything more. But as you can see, the fuel level actually is quite high. I mean, the tank in this car is not very big at all, to be honest, but the fuel is actually quite high in the tank. So I mean, definitely that should be sending fuel, you know, to the pump for sure at that level. So I don't know why that's not going. So I'm going to see if I can, I do have a little sort of Interscope snake camera thing. I'm going to try and see if I can put that in there and just have a poke around and see that tube on the other side of the tank, because the tube sits on this side of the tank where it sends to the pump, and just see if something's blocking it perhaps. But I mean, I'm really happy that fuel level's quite good. So let's let me get this float and so on sorted out first, see if the gasket will fit, and then we will try and inspect the receiving end for the fuel pump. Right, everyone, so that's the sender unit, sort of contacts cleaned, new spade connector on, new seal put in there and pushed into place. And now when it's on the bottom, it's actually on the tank, sorry, it is actually tight. So before it was wiggling a little bit when I moved the sender unit with the old rubber. So I think the old rubber was absolutely finished, to be honest. So what it makes me think is it makes me think that the tank is not pressurizing properly. So now if I turn the key, and you can see now very slowly we have fuel. And I really love that it's the old gauge is still working, because I did think it wasn't. So I'm not sure why the previous owners marked like quarter and half on there. I'm wondering if there's something different, but I definitely know, like looking at it now, where it's at half, that it roughly signifies what's actually in the tank, because it actually was only around about half in the tank. So it seems to be right. I'm not sure why they've marked it this way, but we'll figure it out. I mean, look, if it is an issue or it's not working properly, we'll figure it out. But the actual sender unit looks in pretty good condition, to be honest. I think it was just dirty. So great sign. So I'm hoping now that we are getting fuel up to the front of the car. I'm going to run the pump, turn it on, run the pump, see if we get a better connection. Maybe perhaps it's pushing fuel to the front now as well afterwards, because it's just pressurizing the tank where the seal was leaking pressure. And if that's the case, we'll be good. If that doesn't work, then I'm going to have to go under the car, start disconnecting pipes. I did use the snake cam, as I said, the endoscope, and I couldn't see that there was a pickup in the actual tank. So I'm not sure. I think maybe it just relies on pressure, the pump just building pressure and then sending the fuel that way. Because it didn't look like there was anything sort of dangling down into the tank where it's sort of picking up and pulling that fuel across. So let's see. I mean, look, this is a better progress. I'm happy that the gauge works. Let's see what we can do. Okay, so we've given it a little test with the pump running, and it still doesn't seem to be any fuel getting to this point. So what we're doing now is we're working backwards. So we've checked the pipe between here and here. Doesn't seem to be anything coming through. So we're going to work our way down, back towards the pump. That way, just to double check, because we can just see if it is pushing fuel to a certain point in the engine bay and then just not getting further, we can figure out, because maybe it's the new fuel filter, maybe it's something else. So we're just going to work our way backtrack and see what we can do. So good news, we have fuel finally. So it turns out that the regulator valve, this was brand new that I bought to try and restrict it to 5.5 psi or 5 psi, just because I wasn't sure what the current fuel pump puts out. But turns out this, for whatever reason, it's just restricting the flow, where it just comes out as a dribble on the other end. But we disconnected everything else. But yeah, let me just take you guys for a little trip under the car. Join me here. So what we've also done is I've flipped the pump, because the pump was actually upside down. Now I watched some videos with a similar pump of the same brand, and actually it's supposed to go this way. Now what it was, the writing and the stickers and everything were upside down. Now, I'm not sure why it was done that way originally. I don't know, but what we did, I've changed it and I've turned it around. Try to give the pump a little clean as well, just because obviously we had it off, so good practice, right? And then shorten this cable a little bit here. Sorry, this pipe, I keep saying cable. This pipe to the inlet now of the pump, and then the other one on the other side. So what I've done is I've removed the pressure gauge or the pressure regulator, and I've just put a piece in there. Well, I've chopped off this side because I didn't have any more spare. Chopped this side, put that on that side, and then turn the key, and the AN fitting in the engine bay, which, let's walk over there. So here, came over to this guy, and this guy started leaking here. It was actually dripping fuel, so really good. That means we've got, the lines are clear, everything was going. So that regulator was the problem the whole time, which is annoying, frankly, because it was brand new, and because the thought process behind it was I didn't know how much pressure the current fuel pump puts out, so we didn't want to flood the carburetor. So restricting it, this carb takes maximum 5.5 psi. But after doing some homework on the other video, just trying to see the orientation of that pump, it turns out that that one actually does do maximum 5.5. So we should be good. We shouldn't flood the carb. But now we're in a position to see we're going to have fuel up to here. It's time to turn the key and see what happens, right? So we're going to just make sure that give it a time to run, let the float bowls fill up in the carb, and then we're going to give it one blast and just see if it starts. Wish us luck. Okay, we've just dropped a little bit more oil into the car just to check the level. But moment of truth now. Let's just give it a little crank and see if we can build some oil pressure. The tool hasn't arrived yet, but if it doesn't build any oil pressure, then we won't run it any like for much longer. But yeah, essentially gonna turn it and just see if we can get it to bite, if it is actually sparking or biting in there, because we you know, the plugs could also be dead. We don't know. They were all plugs that were already here in the car. So let's give it a shot. Choke in. Close the choke. Keep feeding it. I can't do the pedal from here.
He's tired.
Huh?
The timing might be off.
That is a good sign. That's mad. Okay, so it is going. I don't think the oil pressure didn't move though, but it went. So that means it's good. It's there. What do you think? Timing? Timing might slightly off, or the carb needs adjusting? There you have it. So we know this thing lives. It is going a little bit there. Obviously we don't want to start it too much. There's a few adjustments we need to do, but that is a sure tell sign that this thing has life in it. So again, we didn't get any oil pressure, but obviously we haven't run the engine long enough, but it looks like it is firing. So that is a really good sign. Now there are things that are missing on this that we obviously need to do as well. Breather and so on. There's some breather pipes and things like that. So there's things that are going to be affecting how it's running at the moment. It's not fully there. Sorry, let me just turn the key off because the pump is still going. But all in all, really good. You can see we've got good fuel pressure in there, fuel readings and so on. Nothing leaking, no fuel sort of leaks on there. And that was with the choke down anyway. The choke was down. You saw my dad there just fluttering the accelerator just to try and get it to go. But that is really cool. Really happy, really pleased. So we just need to do some minor adjustments on it, look at the timing again and so on. But yeah, can't tell you how excited I am. So again guys, thanks for watching. Appreciate you guys following the journey with us as well. So remember, like I said, like and subscribe if you want to see this guy actually firing. Like and subscribe because it's coming soon.